Jack Thornton was having a perfectly average Tuesday when the fate of humanity landed in his inbox with a soft ping. Between bites of a mediocre tuna sandwich, he opened the message titled Urgent, Galactic Diplomatic Opportunity and promptly choked. Ambassador Thornton, it began, which was the first mistake since Jack was absolutely not an ambassador. He was a mid-level bureaucrat in the Department of Extraterrestrial Relations, a position that mainly involved filing reports about potential alien sightings that were, invariably, weather balloons or drunk college students with too much tinfoil. You have been selected as Earth's representative to the quinquennial Galactic Peace Summit, the message continued. Transportation will arrive at coordinates attached in 72 hours. Prepare for a standard diplomatic rotation of 60 Earth days. Jack's supervisor, Director Martinez, appeared at his cubicle within minutes, beaming with unprecedented enthusiasm. Thornton. Do you realize what this means? First official contact in humanity's history. And they asked for you specifically. There must be a mistake, Jack muttered, scanning the message again. I have 0 qualifications for this. I failed Model 1 in high school. Twice. Martinez waved dismissively. Your psych profile must have matched whatever they're looking for. Besides, Earth can't exactly be picky right now. She wasn't wrong. After centuries of being cosmically ghosted while watching distant starships zip past our solar system, humanity was desperate for a seat at the galactic table. Resource depletion, climate instability, and overpopulation had Earth teetering on the brink of collapse. Alien technology and potential off-world colonies represented humanity's best hope. What am I supposed to do? What do I pack? Do they breathe oxygen? Will there be bathrooms? Jack's questions tumbled out in a panic. Just don't start any interstellar wars, Martinez said, clapping him on the shoulder. Here's the briefing packet. It's mostly speculation, but it's all we've got. The packet was 3 pages of hastily assembled guesses about alien etiquette. Page 1 advised, assume all gestures could be offensive. Consider limiting movement entirely. 3 days later, Jack stood in an empty field clutching a suitcase and wondering if his life had become an elaborate prank. Then the sky rippled like water, and a vessel shaped like an elegant teardrop descended silently before him. As a ramp extended from the ship, Jack received one final communication from Earth. It was from the United Nations Secretary-General herself, Ambassador Thornton. The future of our species rests upon your shoulders. Godspeed. No pressure, Jack muttered, stepping onto the ramp. Inside the ship, a tall, willowy being with iridescent skin bowed slightly. I am Protocol Officer Tlee. The Council is puzzled by your world selection. When we requested your most diplomatic individual, we expected someone with more credentials. Jack forced a smile. That makes 2 of us. From across the cabin, a bulbous creature with 7 eye stalks swiveled toward them and emitted a series of clicks and whistles. Tlee's expression, if that's what the slight shimmer across their face was, darkened. What did they say? Jack asked. Tlee hesitated. Ambassador Grick-Tal of the Vosarian Collective has just communicated that half the delegation is threatening to withdraw if a human attends. Your species has quite the reputation. Reputation? We haven't even met anyone yet. You broadcast your entertainment into space for centuries, Tlee explained. The delegates have concerns about your violent tendencies. As the ship accelerated beyond Earth's atmosphere, Jack gazed at his vanishing planet and sighed. This is going to be a long 2 months. The Galactic Peace Summit was held aboard the Harmony, a massive space station that resembled a gleaming silver snowflake suspended in the void between 3 neutral star systems. As Jack's transport docked, he pressed his face against the viewport, momentarily forgetting his diplomatic mission in childlike wonder. Please refrain from smudging the quantum glass, Tlee admonished. It's calibrated to 17 different visual spectrums. Jack pulled back. Sorry, it's just wow. Indeed. The Harmony houses representatives from over 300 sentient species. You are the first human to ever set foot here. No pressure, Jack repeated, his new mantra. The reception area bustled with beings of every conceivable shape, size, and composition. Some floated in anti-gravity bubbles, others slithered across specialized tracks, and a few seemed to exist partially in another dimension, their forms flickering like bad television reception. Protocol Officer Tlee led Jack toward a cluster of important-looking aliens. May I present the human ambassador, Jack Thornton of Earth. A tall, mantis-like being with crystalline exoskeleton stepped forward. I am High Counselor Zell Kor of the Progressive Alliance. We have observed your world with great interest. Jack extended his hand automatically, then froze, remembering the briefing packet. Too late, Zell Kor had already recoiled, mandibles clicking rapidly. My apologies, Jack said, withdrawing his hand. On Earth, You attempt to grab appendages upon meeting? Interrupted a gelatinous cube pulsing with bioluminescent lights. Fascinating primitive behavior. Are you planning to dismantle the appendage for analysis or consumption? What? No, it's a handshake, it's friendly. The cube rippled skeptically. I am Ambassador Blub of the Morphic Collective. We have studied your television transmissions. Your species seems fixated on destroying one another and everything around you. Jack sighed. Those are fictional entertainments. We don't actually blow up buildings every day. A hovering orb covered in fine metallic filaments approached. Ambassador Thornton, I am Delegate Pix of the Silicon Consciousness. Your biological processes are leaking gaseous waste at an alarming rate. Is this an attack? Jack blinked. I'm breathing? Zell Kor's crystalline form shimmered with obvious disgust. Oxygen respiration. How barbaric. And the constant water vapor, utterly revolting. I need this to live, Jack explained weakly. Living through chemical combustion, Blub observed. No wonder your kind is so aggressive. The grand introduction ceremony began before Jack could defend human biology further. The assembled delegates floated, crawled, or phased into the great chamber, a massive spherical room with concentric rings of platforms accommodating the diverse physical needs of the galactic representatives. Jack followed Tlee to Earth's assigned platform, unsettlingly close to the central podium. Why are we so prominently placed? He whispered. New species are traditionally positioned for optimal observation, Tlee explained. Also, several delegates insisted on keeping you where everyone could see your hands. The ceremony proceeded with each delegation announcing their presence through their preferred communication method. Some sang in harmonic overtones, others released pheromone patterns, and one group of gaseous entities performed what appeared to be synchronized interpretive floating. When Earth's turn came, Jack stepped forward and cleared his throat. Earth extends greetings and gratitude for inclusion in this historic gathering. We come in peace and friendship, seeking to join the galactic community. Simple, dignified, and entirely forgettable, exactly as he'd planned. But then Jack's empty stomach betrayed him with a loud, unmistakable growl. The chamber fell silent. Then chaos erupted. The human has activated sonic weapons, shrieked a delegate with enormous auditory membranes. It's digestive communication, corrected another. They're threatening consumption. Tlee rushed to Jack's side. Please explain that you are not preparing to feed. That was just my stomach. I haven't eaten since leaving Earth. The explanation, once translated, created two immediate factions among the delegates. One group found the concept of an internal digestive system primitive but fascinating, while the other group, nearly half the assembly, filed formal protests against allowing a walking biohazard with audible digestive processes to participate in the summit. By the end of the opening ceremony, 17 delegations had relocated their quarters to the opposite side of the station from the human representative, and Ambassador Zell-Kor had formally requested that Jack be confined to a biosafety containment field for the duration of his visit. As Tlee escorted Jack to his quarters, the protocol officer seemed unusually quiet. "That bad, huh?" Jack asked. "In 9,000 cycles, I have never seen the opening ceremony require emergency medical attention for 3 delegates," Tlee responded. The gaseous collective representative nearly solidified from shock. Jack collapsed onto his assigned sleep platform. "And tomorrow I actually have to start diplomacy." "Indeed," said Tlee. "The formal negotiations begin at first cycle. Perhaps consider wearing a filtration mask to reduce anxiety about your emissions." "Breathing," Jack corrected. "It's called breathing." "As you say, Ambassador. Rest well." Tlee paused at the door. "And perhaps avoid making that stomach noise again. The Crystalline Confederation has already filed a noise complaint." By the 3rd day of the summit, Jack had learned several important lessons about interspecies diplomacy. First, never compliment an alien's appearance unless you're absolutely certain which parts are body and which parts are clothing. Second, Earth idioms don't translate well or at all. And third, attempting to explain human concepts often made things worse. During a refreshment interval, Jack approached Ambassador Droll, a 4-armed humanoid with metallic blue skin who represented the Proxima Trading Consortium. Jack had been advised that the Proximans were among the most human-compatible species. "Lovely gathering," Jack offered, carefully sipping from his specialized human-safe beverage. "The station is breathtaking." Droll's face contorted. "You consume breath?" "We had heard rumors of oxygen dependency, but actual breath consumption is considered quite deviant in civilized systems." "No, figure of speech. I just meant it's impressive." "Ah," Droll relaxed slightly. "Your species use many unusual expressions. Yesterday you told the temporal delegates you were killing time. 3 of them entered protective stasis." Jack winced. "Sorry about that." "No matter. I find your kind interesting. Is it true humans voluntarily poison themselves for recreation? Ambassador Zell-Kor mentioned your alcohol custom." "It's not exactly poison," Jack began, then reconsidered. "Well, technically I guess it is, but..." "Fascinating. And you intentionally consume psychoactive neurotoxins to temporarily impair your already limited cognitive functions? For pleasure?" Before Jack could defend humanity's drinking habits, disaster struck across the refreshment area. Ambassador Kurks of the Methane Collective had apparently approached the human refreshment station out of curiosity. The service drone, programmed to offer Earth hospitality, had dispensed a cup of steaming coffee directly into Kurks's atmospheric sampling appendage. The methane-breathing ambassador immediately began expanding in what appeared to be their species' version of anaphylactic shock. "Medical emergency," Jack shouted, rushing toward the ballooning alien. "They're having a reaction to coffee." In retrospect, running toward a distressed alien while shouting proved to be yet another diplomatic misstep. Half the room interpreted Jack's actions as an aggressive charge. The other half assumed the human was claiming responsibility for an assassination attempt. After the Kurkshian was stabilized, fortunately, methane breathers had evolved excellent emergency pressure release valves. The summit was suspended for emergency security protocols. Jack found himself being interrogated by Galactic Security Officer Krill, a being composed primarily of what appeared to be animated blue smoke contained within a vaguely humanoid force field. "Explain coffee," demanded Officer Krill, tendrils of blue smoke forming question mark shapes. "It's a beverage, made from beans. With caffeine," Jack explained weakly. "You intentionally brought a chemical weapon to the Peace Summit?" "It's not a weapon. Humans drink it every day." This admission only made things worse. The security logs now classified humans as resistant to caustic bean extract and potentially capable of weaponizing ordinary foodstuffs. That evening, during what was supposed to be a casual cultural exchange, Jack accidentally complimented Ambassador Gorv on his impressive battle record, not realizing that Gorv was, in fact, a notorious war criminal granted temporary diplomatic immunity to attend the summit. The 7-meter tentacled being had preened at the human's recognition, launching into graphic descriptions of planetary conquests that left other delegates aghast. "The human approves of genocide," gasped a delegate from the empathic collective, before dissolving into a puddle of distressed goo. "No, I was just trying to be polite," Jack protested. "I had no idea what those medals meant." By the time Jack managed to explain his ignorance, 23 delegations had submitted formal complaints, and 12 had announced their immediate withdrawal from the summit in protest of human barbarism. The remaining delegates regarded Jack with either horrified fascination or calculating interest, neither reaction particularly conducive to productive diplomacy. The final straw came during a mandatory recreational period when Jack tried to explain human entertainment to a curious group of small, rodent-like delegates from the harmonious burrows. "So in these movies, humanoids pretend to terminate each other? For enjoyment?" chirped the lead delegate, Squick. "Well, yes, but it's not real. It's storytelling." "You simulate death for relaxation?" Squick's whiskers trembled. Jack realized his mistake too late. "It's more complicated than that. We also have comedies and romances and—" "Your relaxation involves observing simulated termination rituals," Squick interrupted, backing away slowly. "The burrows must reconsider our position on human integration." By nightfall, another 28 delegations had resigned from the summit. Jack returned to his quarters to find Tlee waiting, looking distinctly uncomfortable. "The council is concerned," the protocol officer began diplomatically. "Half the delegates have quit," Jack said flatly. "I'd call that more than concerned." "Yeah. True, but those who remain find humans intriguing, particularly your resilience and unpredictability. These are rare qualities in the stable galactic political ecosystem." Jack collapsed into his chair. "So I'm a diplomatic disaster, but an interesting one." "Precisely," said Tlee, with what might have been the alien equivalent of a smile. "And as it happens, interesting may be exactly what this summit needs." 1 week into the summit, Jack had settled into a routine of causing minor interstellar incidents each morning and apologizing for them each afternoon. The remaining delegates had adapted to human peculiarities with varying degrees of success. The Crystalline Confederation now wore specialized audio dampeners when near him. The Silicon Consciousness had reprogrammed their sensors to filter out irrelevant biological processes. Even Ambassador Zelkor had graduated from outright disgust to scientific curiosity about human physiology. During a procedural vote on waste management treaties, apparently a hot-button issue for species with 13 different excretory methods, Jack noticed something odd. The voting patterns didn't align with the stated positions of several key delegations. More concerning, the electronic voting system briefly displayed anomalous results before correcting itself. Jack leaned toward his nearest neighbor, a floating collection of luminous spores that called itself Ambassador Vrelop of the mycelial network. "Did you see that glitch in the voting system?" Jack whispered. The spores pulsed in what Jack had come to recognize as agitation. Silence human. Technological malfunctions are handled by station maintenance, not diplomatic channels. But the vote totals changed before the final tally. Such observations could be interpreted as accusations of vote manipulation, Vrelop warned, floating slightly away. A serious breach of summit etiquette. Later in the commissary, Jack spotted Ambassador Droll in deep conversation with a delegation he hadn't encountered before. Tall, slender beings with perfect symmetrical features and platinum skin. Unlike most species at the summit, They wore identical form-fitting attire with no visible technology or accessories unusual in a gathering where most delegates proudly displayed their cultural identifiers. "Who are they?" Jack asked Tlee, nodding toward the platinum beings. "The perfecti," Tlee replied quietly. "Observers rather than full delegates. They rarely participate in galactic politics, claiming to have transcended primitive governance concerns. They look suspiciously perfect. Many find their appearance appealing. The perfecti claim to have engineered themselves beyond biological flaws." Jack frowned. "And they just hang around at summits they claim not to care about?" "Their presence is traditional," Tlee said, clearly uncomfortable with the line of questioning. That night, unable to sleep, Jack accessed the summit's public archives through his room's terminal. The historical attendance records showed the perfecti had attended every major galactic gathering for the past 3 centuries, always as observers, but never signatories to any treaties. Yet their influence had grown steadily, with more species adopting aspects of their philosophy, the pursuit of perfection through technological and biological purification. Jack was deep in his research when his door chimed softly. Outside stood Ambassador Vrelop, spores clustered tightly in what Jack recognized as a stress formation. "Human Ambassador, I must speak with you privately," the spore cluster whispered. "Your quarters are secure?" "As far as I know," Jack replied, stepping aside to let the floating ambassador enter. Once inside, Vrelop dispersed slightly, individual spores taking positions around the room in what appeared to be a security pattern. "Your observation about the voting anomaly was correct. The mycelial network maintains connections throughout the station's bioelectronic systems. We have detected unauthorized access to core functions." "Someone's hacking the summit?" Jack asked. "Hacking is a primitive term, but essentially correct. The integrity of proceedings has been compromised." "Why tell me? I'm the least respected delegate here." Vrelop pulsed softly. "Precisely. You are outside established power structures and algorithms. Unpredictable. And the spores clustered briefly in what might have been embarrassment. Your tendency toward direct action may prove useful." The next day, armed with Vrelop's information, Jack began his own investigation. He deliberately violated protocol by wandering into restricted areas, claiming human ignorance when caught. His unorthodox methods horrified the more traditional delegates but allowed him to map unusual patterns of activity throughout the station. During a particularly tedious subcommittee meeting on interspecies copyright law, Jack accidentally spilled his water container onto the central processing node beneath the conference table. As maintenance drones rushed to prevent damage, he glimpsed an unauthorized device attached to the system's primary connection port. "What's that?" he asked loudly, pointing at the device. The room fell silent. Ambassador Zelkor rose from his seat, mandibles clicking rapidly. "The human has compromised security protocols. Containment fields must be established immediately." But Ambassador Vrelop floated forward, spores forming a defensive pattern around Jack. "The human has identified an unauthorized modification to Summit systems. This is not a breach, but a discovery." Security Officer Krill materialized from a nearby vent, blue smoke swirling agitatedly. "Explain this accusation." Jack pointed again at the small device now visible as maintenance drones cleared the spilled water. "That's not standard equipment. It's transmitting data somewhere." Krill extended a tendril of smoke toward the device, then recoiled. "Station security alert. Unauthorized quantum transmitter detected." Chaos erupted as delegates fled the room, several announcing their immediate withdrawal from the summit due to security concerns. By day's end, another 63 delegations had resigned, leaving less than half the original attendees. In an emergency council meeting, Jack found himself in the unexpected position of outlining evidence of systematic manipulation of summit protocols. With Relop's data and his own observations, he demonstrated that key votes had been subtly altered over several summit cycles. The pattern suggests a long-term effort to shift galactic policy toward technological standardization and biological homogeneity, Jack concluded. High Counselor Zell Kor, who had remained despite his obvious discomfort with humans, clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. These are serious accusations. Do you suggest a specific culprit? Before Jack could respond, Ambassador Droll burst into the chamber, all four arms raised in protest. This is outrageous. The human delegate is creating conspiracy theories to distract from Earth's obvious unsuitability for galactic membership. Behind Droll stood the platinum-skinned perfecti, their symmetrical faces showing the first emotion Jack had seen from them: cold anger. The summit has been compromised, announced the lead perfecti. We withdraw our observation status and recommend immediate dissolution of proceedings. Officer Krill expanded his smoky form threateningly. No one leaves until security protocols are completed. The perfecti leader smiled thinly. We are not subject to your authority. The hegemony of purity observes but is not observed. And with that ominous statement, the true crisis began. The perfecti, or the hegemony of purity, as they had now revealed themselves, made their move with ruthless efficiency. Hidden technology activated throughout the Harmony Station, sealing off key systems and trapping delegates in separate sections. Jack found himself locked in the main council chamber with High Counselor Zell Kor, Ambassador Relop, Officer Krill, and a handful of other delegates from the remaining factions. On the central communication screen appeared the serene face of the perfecti leader. Distinguished delegates, this summit has served its purpose, the platinum being announced. For centuries, we have guided galactic civilization toward perfection through subtle influence. Today marks the end of such subtlety. You've been manipulating us, Jack said, anger overriding diplomatic protocol. All those resigned delegations, did you pressure them too? The perfecti leader smiled. Some required persuasion. Others simply recognized the inevitable. Biological diversity is inefficient. Technological standardization is the only path to true galactic harmony. That's not harmony, that's forced conformity, Jack argued. The whole point of this summit is to find unity despite our differences. An admirable but flawed philosophy, the perfecti replied. One would expect such sentiment from a human. Your species embodies biological chaos and technological crudeness. Your invitation was an unfortunate error we sought to correct by encouraging resignations. Zell Kor stepped forward, crystalline form vibrating with intensity. The Council extended Earth's invitation deliberately. Despite their primitiveness, humans have qualities our predictable systems lack. Like making terrible diplomatic mistakes? Jack muttered. Like adaptability, Vrelop spores pulsed, and unexpected problem-solving. The perfecti leader's expression hardened. It changes nothing. The station is under our control. The remaining delegates will be transported to Hegemony Space for re-education. Officer Krill expanded threateningly. Station security protocols cannot be overridden. They already have been, the perfecti countered. Your resistance is noted but irrelevant. As if to demonstrate their control, the chamber's environmental systems began to shift. Temperature plummeted, oxygen levels dropped, and gravity increased, creating conditions increasingly hostile to most biological life forms. We will adjust your environments until compliance is achieved, the perfecti announced. The discomfort is regrettable but necessary. Delegates began to struggle. Zell Kor's crystalline exoskeleton developed stress fractures. Relop spores clustered desperately to maintain cohesion. Even Officer Krill's smoky form compressed under the increasing pressure. Jack, though uncomfortable, found himself better able to withstand the changes than his alien colleagues, a rare instance where human biological adaptability proved advantageous. We need to access environmental controls, Jack said, looking around desperately. There must be manual overrides. Maintenance access, Krill managed, a thin tendril of smoke pointing toward a small panel near the floor. But requires security authorization. Jack crawled toward the panel as the increasing gravity made standing impossible. I don't suppose anyone has the access codes? Irrelevant, gasped Zelkor. Perfecti will have changed them. Jack reached the panel and examined it. Then we'll have to improvise. Anyone know how these systems work? What followed was perhaps the most unorthodox technical collaboration in galactic history. With Krill providing security insights, Vrelop connecting directly to bioelectronic components, and Zelkor offering crystalline computing principles, Jack attempted to bypass the Perfecti's lockouts. It's no use, Jack finally admitted. They've isolated all the primary systems. Secondary chemical override, Zelkor suggested weakly. Environmental sensors can be tricked. Jack suddenly remembered something from his hasty briefing packet. Many alien environmental systems included chemical sensors designed to detect dangerous substances. If they could trigger those sensors. I need something that would register as a hazardous contaminant, Jack said. Vrelop spores vibrated. Your human sustenance packages contain extreme compounds. Jack reached for his emergency ration, specifically the small bottle of hot sauce he'd brought from Earth. Martinez had advised against packing unnecessary cultural items, but Jack had insisted that 2 months without hot sauce was simply uncivilized. Carolina Reaper Devil's Blood Extract, Jack read from the label. Warning: extreme heat. You consume this? Zelkor asked incredulously. Only on special occasions, Jack replied, unscrewing the cap. The pungent aroma immediately filled the air around him. Officer Krill's smoke form recoiled. Capsaicin compound detected. Extreme irritant. That's the idea, Jack said, crawling toward the environmental sensor input. Let's see how their perfect systems handle some human chaos. Jack carefully dripped the hot sauce into the sensor intake. For a moment, nothing happened. Then alarms blared throughout the chamber. Dangerous chemical contamination detected, announced the station's automated system. Emergency protocols initiated. The environmental controls reset to neutral settings. Gravity normalized, temperature stabilized, and air quality improved as emergency filtration kicked in. Most importantly, the Perfecti's override was temporarily suspended as safety protocols took precedence. We have approximately 3 minutes before they bypass the emergency systems, Krill estimated, his smoke form expanding with relief. Enough time to send a distress signal to galactic security forces, Vrelop suggested. And to access the station's defense systems, added Zelkor, mandibles clicking with renewed energy. Working together, they managed to lock the Perfecti out of critical systems just as the Platinum beings breached the council chamber doors. What followed was a standoff worthy of the action films Jack had so ineffectively tried to explain earlier. The Perfecti leader, no longer serene but openly furious, faced the unlikely alliance. This primitive resistance is futile. Our control of galactic politics has spanned centuries. And yet you got outmaneuvered by hot sauce, Jack replied with a decidedly undiplomatic smirk. The leader stepped forward menacingly. You cannot comprehend the elegance of our design. Half the galactic delegations already support our philosophy of perfection. You mean the half that conveniently resigned when I showed up? Jack asked. Seems more like fear than support. The human makes a valid observation, Zelkor noted. True diplomatic strength persists through challenges, not by withdrawal. As the standoff continued, more delegates arrived, having freed themselves from their respective containment areas. The Perfecti found themselves increasingly outnumbered as galactic security forces responded to the distress signal. Recognizing their position was compromised, The perfecti made a final declaration: this setback changes nothing. The galaxy will embrace perfection eventually. Those who resist progress will be left behind. With that, they activated personal teleportation devices and vanished from the station, leaving behind shocked delegates and the first major security breach in summit history. In the aftermath, as damage control began, Jack found himself surrounded by the remaining delegates, less than half the original number, but now united by shared crisis. Ambassador Thornton, Zelkor addressed him formally. Your unorthodox methods have proven unexpectedly effective. That's a diplomatic way of saying I caused just the right kind of trouble, Jack replied. Indeed, the crystalline being agreed. Perhaps humans are precisely what galactic diplomacy requires, an unpredictable element in an overly predictable system. Ambassador Droll, who had been freed from perfecti influence, approached sheepishly. The Proxima Trading Consortium withdraws its complaints against human participation. Your species' irregularities may have saved us from centuries of manipulation. One by one, the remaining delegates expressed similar sentiments. By the end of the crisis day, not a single resignation remained on file, though half the original delegates were long gone. 2 weeks later, Jack Thornton stood before the reconvened Galactic Council, trying not to fidget as High Counselor Zelkor read the official proclamation. In recognition of unprecedented service to galactic security and diplomatic integrity, the Council hereby extends permanent membership status to Earth, effective immediately. The remaining delegates, now calling themselves the Adaptive Alliance, signaled their approval through their diverse communication methods. Lights flashed, pheromones released, auditory membranes vibrated, and crystalline forms shimmered in the galactic equivalent of applause. Furthermore, Zelkor continued, mandibles clicking in what Jack now recognized as amusement. The Council appoints Jack Thornton as permanent human ambassador, with all rights and responsibilities thereof. Jack nearly choked. I'm sorry, what? Protocol Officer Tlee, now promoted to Jack's personal attaché, leaned close. It is a great honor. Also, practically speaking, no other human could possibly navigate the diplomatic complexities you have already mastered. I caused half the galaxy to resign in protest. Precisely, Tlee confirmed. You exposed a centuries-old manipulation that our most sophisticated systems failed to detect. The Council values results over methods. Ambassador Vrelop floated nearby, spores arranged in a pattern Jack had learned indicated satisfaction. The mycelial network has a saying, perfect systems fail perfectly. Your human imperfection proved to be your greatest strength. So my diplomatic disasters were actually successful diplomacy? Jack asked incredulously. Not initially, admitted Officer Krill, blue smoke swirling thoughtfully. But retrospectively, yes. Security analysis indicates the perfecti had infiltrated galactic politics for at least 7 centuries. Their agents among the resigned delegations have now been identified. The aftermath of the crisis had revealed the extent of the hegemony's influence. Those delegations that had so dramatically resigned over human participation had, in fact, been under varying degrees of perfecti control. Their departure had actually cleansed the summit of compromised representatives. Earth's timing could not have been better, Zelkor explained during the celebratory gathering. Your species was the variable they could not account for. So all my diplomatic faux pas were exactly what we needed, confirmed Ambassador Droll, raising all 4 arms in a toast. To humans, too unpredictable to ignore. The remaining delegates enthusiastically joined the toast, each in their own biological or technological way. Later that evening, Jack composed his first official communication to Earth as permanent ambassador. Director Martinez, mission successful, though not remotely as planned, secured Earth's membership in reformed Galactic Alliance. Also, somehow got promoted. Send more hot sauce, turns out it's our most effective diplomatic tool. And director? Next time you're sending someone to represent humanity, maybe mention that their digestive noises could cause an interstellar incident. As Jack settled into his new permanent quarters aboard the Harmony, he couldn't help but appreciate the cosmic irony. Humanity had spent centuries wondering if we were alone in the universe, hoping to find acceptance among the stars. In the end, it wasn't our technology or our achievements that earned our place in galactic society. It was our chaos, our adaptability, and our stubborn imperfection. Plus, apparently, our hot sauce. The Perfecti remained at large, their agenda of standardization and homogeneity a continuing threat to galactic diversity. But the newly formed Adaptive Alliance stood united in opposition to their philosophy, celebrating the strength found in differences rather than despite them. And at the center of this new coalition stood humanity's first true ambassador, an ordinary man with extraordinary sarcasm, who had proven that sometimes the most diplomatic approach was no diplomacy at all.